Hello, everybody. EJ Schultz here, news editor at Ad Age, and welcome to the latest installment of our monthly look at purpose marketing hits and misses. Joining me, as usual, is our guest, Thomas Kolster, who is the founder and creative director of Copenhagen-based Goodvertising agency, which advises companies and organizations on how to turn environmental, societal, and health risks into market opportunities. Hello, Thomas. Welcome.
Hello, EJ. So good to see you.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. As usual, we'll start out with our hits. And the first one comes from the feminine care brand Bodyform in the United Kingdom. An ad called "Never Just a Period" advocates for more education for menstrual experiences by dramatizing how girls and women are often in the dark about their own bodies. The ad comes from AMV BBDO. Let's watch it and then we'll discuss.
Just a period.
So before we start discussing this one, I wanted to bring in a female voice to discuss the approach, quoting Lauren Peters, who's the art director at AMV BBDO. And she told Ad Age recently that, quote, "There's a huge gap between what we're talking about and what we actually experience. And as a result, you go through life feeling perpetually confused and afraid and ashamed unnecessarily just because you have not been given adequate information." So clearly that's what that ad is dramatizing quite effectively with visual effects and every other thing, a little bit of humor mixed in as well. Thomas, why did you like this one specifically?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that quote. I think it touches on one of the really sort of things that hit it home with me, which is the sort of emotional connection with the audience, that you just feel that here's a brand that completely understands you. Secondly, there's never a period that's alike, and there's never one Bodyform ad that's alike. And I think what they get right is the consistency. And we talked a lot about that with Dove and others, when they keep being able to tell a novel, interesting, emotional story, but still stick within that territory. And I think that's what Bodyform does again. I know that Bodyform's ads have generally done really well in their award shows, and I think also they're very, very well received because they spark that sort of emotional response. Their ads get discussed, people love to hate them or love them. And so this is impact work and purpose work that's done really, really well. They're building the brand over time, and they're taking part in some really important conversations.
I think there's some really nice stylistic touches in here as well. The orchestra, and then when the man is saying it's just a period, and then there's just like this sigh coming from the orchestra almost, which I thought was very effective.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about insights, and I think we tend to forget those strong insights and how powerful they are in terms of actually building something meaningful with the audience. And I think they just get the insights right throughout that little thing. I've talked to women who hate it. I talked to women who loved it. And I think that's what great communication should be doing.
Certainly is attention grabbing.
Yeah.
Moving on, the Olympics are, of course, over, and there were plenty of campaigns. Coca-Cola, I think, did some of the most advertising in the game, and we're going to pick out one that was pretty effective in your view. And it is a simple but poignant ad that celebrated togetherness with a story that was inspired by an actual moment from the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, when fellow swimmers embraced South African gold medal winner Tatiana Schoenmaker after Schoenmaker broke the world record in the 200-meter breaststroke. Let's watch the ad, which comes from Coca-Cola's dedicated agency, WPP OpenX.
The big one for you now, the final of the women's 200 breaststroke.
Tatiana Schoenmaker back to defend her gold medal against her biggest rivals.
World record under threat.
Do I have to rule the world?
Not an easy one for her.
Or will it come to me?
Steely-eyed Schoenmaker. History will be made in the next few minutes.
Tatiana Schoenmaker, wow!
In many ways, that's classic Coca-Cola advertising, feeding into themes, the DNA of the brand that's been there forever, right? Togetherness, happiness. We can set aside the discussion on soda, but just from a creative standpoint, why did you like that one?
So I think, to be honest, I think Coca-Cola has been zigzagging a little bit lately. And for me, it was great to see them to come back to that core of the brand and telling a story that, as you pointed out in the beginning as well, it's a real story. So we can discuss, is this the best creative ever? Maybe not, but I think it's actually purpose done really, really well. I feel the last couple of years, they have been too much focused on sort of lifestyle advertising and forgot that bigger narrative. And I think especially in today's world where everything is so divided, I think we need some of these uplifting messages, and also speaks to sort of the core narrative of the Olympics and what the Olympics stands for. So I think they do a bit of a home run with this ad.
I thought the song worked really nicely in this one as well, the way it sort of crescendoed at certain points.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's a soft drink brand. The product is there, but I still get like a little bit of a fuzzy feeling when I look at it, and I think that's what Coca-Cola used to do really, really well back in the past with the happiness campaign. A lot of that work they did earlier, and so it's just great to see them sort of come back to home in some ways, and where I feel a lot of other brands didn't really succeed getting a believable narrative out there around the Olympics. I think this actually rings true with Coca-Cola. And again, putting the whole obesity, sugary, etc., and sponsorships of the Olympics apart. But I think they do it well with this message.
All right, moving on to our last hit, which comes from your hometown, Thomas, Copenhagen.
Oh, yes.
You must be intimately familiar with this one. And it actually comes from the city's official tourism organization, which introduces a new program called Pay that rewards people for making environmentally friendly choices. Let's take a watch.
Copenhagen aspires to be more than just the capital of Denmark. It aims to become the capital of sustainable tourism. Most of the city's electricity comes from renewable energy sources. And the people in Copenhagen bike, swim in the canals, and drink tap water instead of bottled water. Now Copenhagen attractions promote green actions by introducing Pay. The model is simple. Copenhagen attractions reward climate-friendly actions. For instance, arriving by bike can earn you a trip down Copenhagen's famous ski slope. Cycling to the National Museum earns your family a treat.
Are you a part of Pay? Sure.
Work on an urban farm and get a free vegetarian lunch. Or if you help keep the water in the canals clean, you can get the kayak tour for free. Copenhagen is introducing Pay as a pilot project where a wide range of attractions reward tourists with Pay. The hope is not only for people to increase green actions in Copenhagen, but to inspire more green actions worldwide.
So I think we've seen the similar approaches where you're sort of gamifying living an environmentally friendly lifestyle. This is sort of reminds me a little bit of like a rewards, like a credit card rewards program, right? You kind of accumulate points for experiences. So tell me, why you like this besides that it's plugging your own hometown.
It definitely does, and I probably will go for a little dip in the canal after this little podcast. What I like about it is that you might see a lot of city tourism, country tourism that sort of runs into the trap of talking about all the green stuff that country stands for, and we do see the story in the beginning with windmills, etc. I think what this campaign have done really well is that it turns the tourists into participants in this campaign and get them to maybe try things that they wouldn't try before. We see the kayak, for example, which is a amazing little free experience where you can go into the canal. If you pick up some waste during that trip, you will get that kayak for free. And again, maybe it's not the most creative work we've seen out there, but how it really succeeded resonating with press around the world has for me been one of the key points where I really like this, and also seen it with my own eyes, how it has actually had made an impact on the tourists who came to visit, who might have thought differently about the types of activities that they wanted to do, maybe go and join in that rooftop garden. And I think this is probably key to the impact work. Sometimes for it to be outstanding, the impact might be great, whereas our typical sort of creativity and storytelling might not be that great, but they really deliver on the impact, and that's why I wanted to focus on this campaign today.
All right, moving on to our misses. We've looked in previous episodes. I feel like we've examined a lot of work related to plastics, right? It's a huge part of
yes, we have.
When it comes to sustainability. A lot of times the advocacy ads are talking about common uses of plastic, like straws, water bottles, very popular thing to go after. This campaign we're about to look at focuses on a more unlikely culprit, and those are fun inflatable rafts used by people on vacation. It's an outdoor campaign, so we're not going to show a video. You can just kind of look at it here. This comes from the website creativeboom.com. But basically the idea here, it's a collaboration between travel brand Thomas Cook and the Marine Conservation Society. The agency involved here is McCann Birmingham, and it depicts an orca and a dolphin and a turtle depicted as half deflated inflatables stuck on a beach. In the billboards, their media buy really focuses on airports, and quoting the executive creative director, McCann Birmingham, Adam Bodfish, who said, chilling out is a part of the holiday fun, but the impact of abandoned inflatables is often overlooked. Airports are busy places, so we need to find an original and creative way to grab holidaymakers' attention and make them think twice before they jet off to the beach. So what's the problem with this one in your mind, Thomas?
I mean, let's give them some credit for at least getting the media choice right as people are jetting off. My problem is the brand Thomas Cook. It's not the Nature Conservancy. It's just the fact that Thomas Cook is a mass tourism travel brand, often sort of getting people get to destinations for a cheap price, often with environmental harm, often with some challenges to those local environments. So I think the challenge is that by focusing on, in comparison, such a small issue, such as leftover inflatables on a beach somewhere in the destination, and not actually on the very sort of harmful industry that they're representing, it's a classic case of focusing on the lesser of two evils. So even though I think it's an applaudable thing, and if the Nature Conservancy had ran that by themselves, fine. It just hurts my eyes to see that Thomas Cook is behind this, and in some ways it's close to being greenwashing, right?
Yeah, and that's, you point out the issue I had with it is in questioning, like, how much of a problem really is this? Look, I haven't done the research.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but I got to think that it's low down on the list when it comes to eliminating plastics. And maybe it was a way for them to do that interesting visual. But maybe it's, perhaps you got to question how much of a problem really there was there behind this.
I got to be honest. I'm one of those nerds that actually go and pick up plastics from the beach when I go on holidays. Believe it or not, but that's how I sometimes spend my time.
I do believe it.
And and I could definitely tell you the culprit is not the leftover inflatable animals. It's often the likes of Coca-Cola and other brands that are. To get some finger pointing there. So all in all, I think it's a bit of a wasted effort.
All right, moving on. Next up is Norwegian brand Puffle, which promotes its refillable and non-plastic detergent containers with an ad filled with plenty of visual effects. Let's take a watch.
Imagine a world where detergent doesn't come in plastic containers. Imagine a world where detergent doesn't come in plastic containers. Again.
What am I missing here? What is, somebody explain this to me?
Yeah, first of all, I actually want to applaud you for being able to say Puffle. So our Nordic audience here would be very proud of you, EJ. I missed a lot of stuff. It kind of feels like the creative team have drank too much detergent and began hallucinating. And it's such a shame because packaging is a massive issue, and I think they could have used this ad to tell stories about convenience. They could have told stories about the effects of and the piling up of what all those plastic containers actually, the harm that they're doing, etc. I can't really make sense of the commercial, and I think it reminds me of earlier commercials we've seen that's very sort of rich on some sort of elaborate visual effect, but it just lacks a consistent story. What is it you want me to do? Do you want me to change my behaviors, or do you just want to entertain me with some sort of elaborate visual direction? So I'm sure it's a director's wet dream, but I lack the impact. I lack the storyline.
Anyone involved in this to help me out, clarify what I'm missing, but like I was kind of curious, what's the deal with the produce section? Why are they in the produce section? Do you know?
No idea. I don't know why there's a milk carton. There's so many questions that are sort of left unanswered. Visually, yeah, it's interesting, but it just doesn't drive anything.
Maybe there's a part 2. Who knows?
Maybe they need to do a part 2. Maybe we will know very soon.
All right, moving along. Next miss comes from the energy company EDF, which promotes how it is creating the infrastructure for zero carbon electricity in Britain. And this ad comes from Lucky Generals. It's called Change is in Your Power. Let's watch.
Experts say there's more pain in store for energy customers unless there are fundamental changes to the energy system. Risk of
All right, what don't you like about this one?
Whoa, it's kind of like that band playing on Titanic this time. It's just this little kid with electric guitar playing as the sort of climate emergency is unfolding. I mean, there's no proof points whatsoever. EDF shows us some windmills, some electric vehicles, etc. They don't talk about that EDF is heavily involved in nuclear energies and other fossil fuel-based energy sources. Yet they talk about the transition that they might want to see, might not want to see, who knows. So again, the lesser of two evils. They focus on a part of their portfolio, focused on renewable energy, which is not the biggest part of their portfolio in this piece of advertising. So I don't think it's an honest piece of advertising. So again, very, very close to what I would call greenwashing. And it's a shame. They could have saved the ad by being a little bit more honest about the portfolio that they represent.
All right, we're running out of time. I want to quickly get to one more miss. We have a bonus, fourth miss today. Comes from Ikea, which is normally a standout. They're normally in the hit column, if I remember correctly. But this one doesn't.
Oh, yes, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and this one is called Here Comes the Sun. Let's watch the ad and then talk about it. So it's just as I was introducing that, the lights dimmed in my conference room for some reason, so I could maybe use those mirrors. But before we start talking about it, I want to quote from one of the copywriters involved in it, and he said, "Making most of one's resources is at the heart of IKEA. That's why the idea felt just right. It did not feel right to you, Thomas, though. Why?"
Again, it feels like one of those stunts that doesn't really deliver any impact, to be honest. I mean, I like the inside. I think we all have experienced that when we go to a cafe, one of our favorite cafes, and it's in shade, so we might choose another one. So obviously there's an inside there. I just don't think that they actually deliver any real solution here. So it's one of those sort of stunt ads, which is a bit of a shame. Because it is, I mean, there is a real need out there. I mean, I remember a while back where there was actually a Norwegian village, I think it was called Rjukan, that actually built these massive mirrors so they could actually reflect the sun down to the village that was sort of down in the valley. So it is a solution that has a real life impact, but the way that they've done it here, I think it's more of a stunt than anything to do in an impact category. Might also be fun to look at.
There's people that go to a cafe and actually want to sit in the shade maybe sometimes. It might be a little annoying. you know?
I honestly, John, I mean, I honestly doubt if that thing ever really worked. It seemed more like a piece that's very, very nicely executed and filmed that something that have worked. But you know, the guys can always send us a little video proof, and we'll judge it then.
All right, we're finished with this month's episode, but before we leave everyone, I want to tease something special we have coming up. I want to invite everyone. We're actually going to do this live in Chicago, Tom. So you're going to come all the way to the U.S. We'll meet in person for a special live Purpose Hits and Misses. It's part of our larger Business of Brands event, which is geared towards anyone interested in marketing trends, CMOs, brand managers, agency people, anyone else. You're welcome to come to Chicago. The information on the event is on your screen right now. I would invite everyone to check it out at adage.com/business of brands. We're going to be doing this September 18th and 19th. And we're going to break down some ads live and in person so people can complain to us in person and disagree with it in person. And we would welcome that debate. So please make arrangements. Join us in Chicago. We'll have plenty of other brands speaking at different panels, including Coca-Cola, General Motors, State Farm, General Mills, plenty. It's a great lineup, really it is. So again, want to put that plug in. But it is now time for us to leave this episode. Again, my name is EJ Schultz, news editor at Ad Age. I want to thank, as always, Thomas Kolster of the Goodvertising Agency. Give a special shout out to our producer, Lauren Giardia. We'll catch everyone next time. Thank you.